Some are saying that Iowa State looks the best that it ever has on offense, but offense is only a third of the game. And I think that there's a real argument that Iowa State's special teams could be even better. We're talking about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day, making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform. Be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. This is the week to do it, folks. Obviously, we'll get to the Iowa game down the road, but for now, we're going to stay focused on that South Dakota game from just a few days ago. We're going to talk about the special teams today. We're going to talk about my biggest takeaways. We're also going to break down kind of the mindset. There was a few post-game interviews. Is it where I think it needs to be? Potentially. Maybe not. Maybe so. Stick around to find out. We'll also kind of recap what's going on in the Big 12 because Iowa State is, in fact, a title contender. Lots to talk about on today's show. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, as I said in the beginning of this episode, the first line that you heard come out of my mouth was that the special teams could be maybe the best part of this Iowa State team. Well, yes and no. Yes, it is a full unit, but specifically Aiden Flora is a name that if you haven't heard before, you probably haven't watched either of Iowa State's games this season, and one you really should get super familiar with. This kid is electric, a name that had been floated around in the offseason, but wasn't really something that was majorly talked about. And when we got to the depth chart at the end of the offseason, the kicker punt returner position was it was just an or of Xavier Townsend, Aiden Flora, if I remember correctly. And so I honestly assumed Xavier Townsend was what it was. I honestly assumed it would be Townsend. Completely thought it was going to be him, thought Aiden Flora would kind of be split out back with him. Maybe they run the two-man, whatever. But definitely thought it was going to go Townsend's way. It seems like it's Flora's game, and I think that's the right play. Well, I honestly, my first thought was, okay, this kid might win the Jet Award. After what we saw against South Dakota, if he can keep that up, yeah, he's going to be in the running for that. So I obviously pulled up the stats here, and Iowa State has a weapon at returner, both kick and punt. Let me give you the stats here. Aiden Flora in punt returning is leading in quite a few categories here. Not all of them, but certainly a lot of them. Aiden Flora has 2 returns for 117 yards. That's an average of 58.5 with a long of 66. That's pretty good. That is really good, especially when you consider the fact that he didn't take either of those to the house. He's the only one on this list at the very top across all of football right now that doesn't have a touchdown. I think that's what the top 7 all have a touchdown except for Flora. So obviously those are going to be, Lacey from Louisville. He's got a 93-yarder. Obviously, I guess I don't know for sure because I didn't back check this, but I feel like that's the one he took to the house. And the 2 guys ahead of Flora sits in 3rd in total yards returned. The 2 guys who sit ahead of Flora had 2 extra attempts. So 4 attempts instead of 2. That right there should be enough to tell you just how powerful this guy is. I believe he's number 1 in average, but he doesn't pop up as number 1 when you click on him or on the average column. Yet again, what I was talking about on yesterday or on Saturday's show of ESPN just not giving Iowa State respect. Don't love it. Either way, his punt return game, A+. The kid's electric, fast, can read the field, makes the moves he has to. We'll get to that more here in a second. I do want to touch on his kickoffs as well because against Kansas State, he did really well. He had 2 returns for 56 yards total. That's an average of 28. That's going to make a difference in these games. Okay, now, Iowa State didn't return a lot of kickoffs in this game against South Dakota. Final score 55-7. Right? That's just how this is going to go a little bit. Obviously, a lot more opportunities to return punts. And I will say really quickly before I pivot and kind of talk about the impact that this is going to have, Flora did appear to sustain some sort of injury. I'm not exactly sure I'm not even really going to speculate. I'm going to leave it kind of just up in the air right now because that's not really, that's not really fair. And that does semi concern me. It was brought up to Matt Campbell in the post-game presser. And he said, like, it doesn't seem that bad right now. We'll see. He was also asked about injuries earlier and that, not just about Flora. And he was like, yeah, it doesn't seem like we have anything across the team that's like going to last a long time. Those are typical Matt Campbell injury comments. So I will have to see how Flora, handles whatever's going on. Can he bounce back quickly? Is it going to be a lingering thing? We don't know. And so that does put me on edge a little bit. But from what we've seen this far this season, if Flora can do what he's doing right now over the rest of the year, that is a weapon that Iowa State has. Now, to kind of extrapolate this, when you take the game of football and break it into 3 phases, offense, defense, and the often forgotten about special teams phase, generally the team that plays better in all 3 phases will win. That's not always true. That's not a hard and fast rule. You could have a team that plays so much better on offense, but not so much in defense and special teams. You never know which way the game's going to go in a situation like that. But if you can win all 3 phases, I feel pretty confident in saying if you're better on offense, defense, and special teams, you're going to win a lot of games. If not, I would venture to say maybe even all of the games that you're better in all 3 phases of the game. You could be better on offense and defense, but if your kick return gives up a touchdown every single time, like if they're just kicking the ball and then not fielding it, not playing effective defense right on the kickoff, you're going to lose games, right? Like if they're able to score basically every time they touch the ball, it's just not good. You don't want that. So all 3 phases are important. And we saw on Saturday just how good Iowa State's special teams is. 63-yard field goal from Kyle Konrardy. Aiden Flora lighting up the punt return game, especially in this one. And he was really close to just dominating the rest of the standings as far as yards goes. I think they took him back an extra like 20 yards on that big long return he had up the left sideline. Or I guess from the camera view that I was watching. Point is, seems like Iowa State's special teams could be an absolute weapon. And if Iowa State can dominate the special teams game, that's going to help them win a lot of games over the course of the season. Then that really just leaves it to the offense and defense. Like you don't really have to worry about special teams, which is that's a huge weapon. That really is. I mean, I'm not even joking. And obviously Iowa State fans, like it hasn't always been that way. It has not always been that the special teams is just a given. Okay, we're going to play well in special teams. That's not the case. So it feels good to have that. And I will say, before we pivot away from special teams, this was kind of a Flora segment. Wanted to spotlight that. But I also want to talk about Konrardy because we did talk at length about him on Saturday, but it just needs more attention. And when he was asked post-game by all the reporters of, what did this mean, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about this kind of in the mindset spot then to end today's show. But the confidence boost that he got from that kick, I don't think can be overstated. Like, I think that was a huge kick, huge opportunity for Konrardy there. I think that was the exact thing that I was talking about on Friday's show, where I said that we need to look for Konrardy to get a confidence boost. The way that things started over in Dublin, I think there is going to be a bit of a concerted effort to get him back in his groove. That was it, and I think it really, really did it. I think it really worked. And ahead of a Cy-Hawk game, you need that, especially what happened last year, right? I mean, I haven't forgotten. I don't think I ever will, actually, to be completely honest. Kyle Konrardy, if you want to send me a jersey, I will put it up right there. I will. Whoever snapped that ball as well, maybe we spotlight them. Point is, I think special teams is absolutely killing it this season so far. And I think that if they can keep up what they're doing, because they're for some reason just acting at a national historic level, 63-yard field goal, dominating in punt returns from Flora, dominating in kick returns also from Flora. Like, yeah, we're going to be pretty good this season based on what I'm seeing on the other sides. Like, I just, oftentimes special teams is forgotten about. I don't think so on this Iowa State team. That being said, that's only a third of the ball. We're going to talk about my takeaways on the other 2 sides as I did rewatch this game. We'll talk about coming up right here after this. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, coming right up for Iowa State. What hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use code Locked On, we'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. Head to thegamecaps.com, thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. College football is back. Iowa State's 2-0, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there is nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app is made super simple, and I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. You know by now, the most important feature for me. I absolutely love it. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So Iowa State special teams dominating. We know this. We saw it. We love it. Everyone's on the same page. Shout out Aiden Flora. Shout out Kyle Konrardy. Shout out every single guy who is busting his booty out there on the special teams. Okay. Don't get enough love. Long snappers are people too. All right. Let's move on though, because the offense and the defense are kind of the bread and butter a little bit of what people are generally watching during a football game. Here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I have a few takeaways from this game against South Dakota. And I will say, I will preface this before we get too far in here and I start nitpicking everything. And I saw all the comments on Saturday's episode. I hear you guys. I want to make it clear. I think Iowa State is looking really good. Overall, I think Iowa State obviously defeated Kansas State. And we'll kind of talk about that here in the third segment. But defeated Kansas State, dominated South Dakota in a way that I did not think they would. I think they look really good. I think they look probably, I would say, 10 points further along than I would have thought they would be. Now, what is the reference? What's the scale for that whole thing? I don't really know. 10 points just feels like the right number. Is that 10 points closer to 100, 10 points closer to 15? I'd say probably closer to 10 points, closer to 100, right? This team is very good on offense. This team is pretty good on defense. I think that this team is very capable of pushing for a Big 12 championship. Let's get that out of the way. Biggest takeaways. Let's start on offense because I think that this is where the team is better. Rocco Becht is absolutely in one of the best quarterback conversations in the entire country. There is going to be a lot of people that don't know of Rocco Becht. There's going to be a ton of conversations about Arch Manning this week, a ton of conversations about Carson Beck out of Miami playing Notre Dame. There's going to be names thrown all over. Sayin from Ohio State, because obviously the Arch Manning deal there, and many, 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 many more. Rocco Becht probably won't be in a lot of those conversations. And I can guarantee you, if he is, the guy who's bringing him up is like in a sleeper pick for you guys on today's show. How about Rocco Becht? How about, and this is exactly how, I'm not even joking, this is how he's going to say it. How about Rocco Becht? How about what Rocco Becht was able to accomplish out in Ames, Iowa against South Dakota, a team that did so well last season? Look at Rocco Becht going 19 for 20 here. It's going to make me lose my mind because I know it's going to happen. It's just not acceptable anymore. I mean, Rocco has shown time and time again that he is a top-tier quarterback in the Big 12 and in the country. Went 19 for 20. Was pulled with a ridiculous amount of time left in this one. Obviously, the circumstances, there was no reason to keep Rocco in the game. And I have no gripe with that decision. I think that was a totally fair decision. You could even make the argument to pull him a little sooner. Probably Probably could have pulled him after the first quarter. Like, if we're being completely real here, we shouldn't have. I understand we made the decisions we did. I think they were fair decisions, but I mean, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen the rest of that game. That being said, 19 for 20, and they were not just gimme throws. They were not all curls underneath. There were, one-on-one chances, 13, I believe, receptions to tight ends. We split tight ends out wide. We hit Eskelson deep. This was a masterclass from Rocco Becht. And I'm not going to really dive into it too much because we'll probably be talking about it all season. And if you want to hear more of that, subscribe down below. It's completely free, okay? Can almost guarantee you we'll be talking about Rocco Becht 40% of the shows this season because he really could be the piece that drives Iowa State to their first Big 12 title. Like, that really could be the move here. It's how good he is. I don't want to let that go by the wayside. So that's why I started off. This offense looks really good. Rocco is absolutely in that best quarterback in the country conversation. Guarantee you he won't be by many. And if he is, it'll be like that last guy. Top 5. Oh, coming in at number 5. Anyone see what Rocco Becht did in Ames? It's going to irritate me. That's why I'm making it my point number 1. Also, wide receivers and tight ends, kind of piggybacking off of Rocco. They look really good. And what Mauser is doing offensive play calling wise, I was a fan in this one. It's easy to be a fan when you win by 48? Was it 55-7, right? So 5. So they win by 47? No, I'm not doing the math. It'd be 48, I think. Yeah. Either way, a lot of points, right? I'm not the math guy here. I only talk about the sports. I don't have a ton of ground to kind of examine with Mauser, but at the end of the first half, I thought we did really well there. Only like 20-something seconds, drive up the field. Yes, it was a ridiculously long field goal, but technically in Konrardy's range, so got into field goal range and came away with points there. And that, we'll talk about that here in the mindset position more in just a few minutes. But overall, the offense I thought looked really good. I thought we were getting separation. I thought we were catching balls we were supposed to catch, obviously, because we really didn't drop any balls from Rocco, except for I thought it was just a miscommunication, the only incompletion Rocco had. That's good. That's what we want from an offense. I thought the line looked pretty good. I'm not going to say the line looked phenomenal, but I thought they did their job, and I thought that they won when they needed to. I thought the run game looked okay. It wasn't anything too crazy or special. That would maybe be my biggest concern, I guess, on the offense, but it's like a A- to an A. Like, it's relatively not as perfect, but across the entire, I would give the entire offense probably an A. I would even venture, I wouldn't go A+, I guess. I don't know what an A+ really looks like, though. Like, if it's not this, then what is it? Because this was really good from Iowa State. Way better than what I was expecting. Significantly better. And I think the biggest reason is the tight ends incorporation and how seamless that really was. Couple minutes here. Let's talk about the defense. I don't think the defense is where it needs to be yet. I'm going to be completely honest. I know people don't necessarily agree with me. I know people are talking about the way Heacock likes to run his first few drives to get a feel. Okay, I get it. Whatever. Still don't think it's where it needs to be. I just don't. I don't think that you stop South Dakota in a way that makes me feel confident about the rest of the season. Does that mean that our season is over? No. There's a ton of opportunity to learn the rest of the year. There is a ton of opportunity for these young guys to fall into their place. Okay. Nothing like, I am not saying we're cooked. I am not saying we're chopped by any means. Okay. I'm just saying what I saw from Kansas State and South Dakota, it's just not there yet. It's just not at a Big 12 championship level yet, in my opinion. Now, granted, you never know what's going to happen in a championship game. Maybe if Flora goes off for 3 return touchdowns and Rocco has 6, and you only like this would probably be good enough if you score 9 touchdowns. That'd be ridiculous. But I just, based on my relatively low IQ, no, I don't think that that's enough. I think that the secondary needs to clean things up a little bit, and they will. And I think that the pass rush, we need to see a little bit more pressure. Now, I'm going to give Bauman some credit. There were some ridiculous throws that he made, namely early when he was like being dragged down and kind of flung it like sidearm a little bit. That was sweet. Okay. And immediately as soon as he threw it, went, oh my gosh. And he completed it. And then I was like, that was a really good throw. Like sometimes that's going to happen. And so obviously there were times in this game where Iowa State got to the quarterback, but I just would like to see it a little bit more. But it's not the end of the world. Like that part I think was okay. I think the rush defense and the pressure is not as big of a deal in my opinion as the secondary, because against Arizona State, if Jordan Tyson is playing, like if the secondary plays the way that they did against South Dakota, expect the ball to go deep to Jordan Tyson as many times as Jordan Tyson can run a go route until he's gassed. The way that I saw South Dakota attacking Iowa State and the way that I saw Iowa State attempting to defend it, expect Jordan Tyson to be just after practice running 100-yard routes over and over until the Iowa State game, and then they're just going to see how many times they can run him deep. If nothing changes, that will happen. That will happen. So that's the only thing I have with this defense. Other than that, we look really good. We do. But that part, disagree with me all you want, that needs to be cleaned up if you're going to be a Big 12 title contender. And I think that this team absolutely is, for more reasons than one. The offense, the special teams, of course, but this team's mindset is also in there as a top 5 reason. We'll talk about that coming up here right after this. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. I love that it's completely online, and Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Iowa State, offense, defense, special teams look really good. I want to get that out of the way because I know that people listened to that last segment and immediately thought, man, Nick thinks we're cooked. I don't. I really don't. I think we're really good. I really do. I know I'm getting really harsh on that secondary, the way I'm talking about Jordan Tyson being able to rip us up for 800 yards. I get it. I'm just saying that probably need to focus on that. But other than that, this team looks really good. Like, we really do. You're here Locked On Cyclones, of course. Our Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I do have an important request for you. Locked On wants to hear from you. We have put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate every single one of you guys for all that you do. Let's talk about the team. Let's talk about the mindset. Let's talk about the Big 12 moving forward. Of course, there were a few guys that were interviewed after this South Dakota win. And I will say I am not on, I'm not traditional media per se. I appreciate every one of you guys that listens to this because I am not your traditional guy who's in there asking them these questions. Some of those questions, they're something else. I'm not going to lie to you. But the way that the guys answer these questions, it's always interesting to me because you can tell it's media trained, it's coach speak, but there's always a nugget of personality in there. It's really tough to completely beat what you're thinking. Like it is hard, and some can do it and some aren't as good at it. My biggest takeaway from this one, mindset wise, was that this team loves to root for each other and this team loves to get better. Rocco was asked about, he didn't even know he had broken a record by going 19 of 20. I think if I had thrown 5 for 5, I would immediately be like, all right, well, I am now trying to force every ball into its position because I don't want to throw an incompletion here. I think I would actually be better as a quarterback if I threw an incompletion on like the first throw or the second throw. Get that one out of the way. Mentally, now I'm good to go. Rocco somehow didn't know that he had broken a record going 19-20. And when asked about his reaction, he was like, well, you can always be better. And I do agree with that. Even if he went 40 for 40, there's always going to be the opportunity that he could have made a better read. Maybe there was someone else who was also wide open down the field. The ball could have been in a better spot. Technically, for the Eskilsson throw, for example, if that ball is put out an extra 2 yards a little bit deeper, maybe Eskilsson doesn't have to turn around. Maybe Eskilsson gets in the end zone. Like, there's all of these minor changes that can be made throughout the course of the game. And of course, going 19 for 20 is ridiculous and amazing. I'm not taking anything away from that, but there is always something that could technically be better. And Rocco absolutely recognized that and said, like, look, I'm always looking to be better, like get better at this, do this. Same thing with Kyle Konrardy. Not so much on the better side of things, but more so in the mindset, like, look, it was just another kick. Next week, it's a bunch more kicks. Like, we're just going to keep playing ball, keep kicking the football. We're going to do our part, let the offense, defense take care of things. Benjamin Bramer, like, just the guys were all talking in a way that was conducive to team success, and they were a big fan of everyone basically succeeding. Like, that's key, because I do think that you will see guys out there that are ready to take the fame for themselves, or take the blame off of them if it's a negative situation, and kind of be like, well, this happened and whatever. I think Iowa State is kind of, at least right now, without any of that. And another thing we didn't really talk about with this team, and maybe we'll talk about it more tomorrow, the fact that you come away with this win puts you in a really good spot momentum-wise. And I think in winning the way that you did, you set a record, at your quarterback position. You set a record, multiple records at the kicking position. Like, you really got momentum rolling, especially after we heard all offseason with how tough this area of the schedule was going to be. If you feel like you have momentum in that part of the year, that's a huge win. And so mentally, I think that this team's in one of the best spots that they've maybe ever been going into a Cyhawk game, into an Iowa game. You're coming off of, you have the record right now of 1-0 in the conference. You dominated South Dakota. You looked unbelievable on offense. Defense held them to 7 points. Like, there was still a lot of bright sides. Of course, I definitely read all the comments saying that, well, of course, quarterback's not going to throw as well when he feels pressure. I get it. That's a fair point. Totally fair point. So defense played well as well. This team, to me, right now looks really, really, really solid. They really do. And to look across the Big 12, because I said I would, and I know we're running low on time here. I think Iowa State is absolutely a Big 12 title contender. Let's take a look at some of the scores. UCF came away with a 7-point win over Jacksonville State. Oklahoma State beat UT Martin. Houston beat Stephen F. Austin. Then we get to Nebraska, Cincinnati. Cincinnati did not get that win. Kansas beats Wagner. Auburn defeats Baylor, a game that I do think Baylor is pretty good, but Auburn just must have been better in that one. That's tough. That's not a great look for the Big 12, not going to lie to you. Georgia Tech beats Colorado, another one that's not a great look. Arizona State, pretty dominant win over Northern Arizona. Kansas State sneaks by North Dakota. We don't like that too much. Iowa State dominates, South Dakota, of course. Texas Tech dominates Arkansas Pine Bluff. West Virginia dominates Robert Morris. Although you should go check out Locked On West Virginia for that breakdown. BYU with a 69-0 win over Portland State. Arizona dominates Hawaii, and Utah dominates UCLA. The way I see it right now, I know I just ran through all those, and I do apologize. TCU will play North Carolina tonight. The way I see it right now, it's Iowa State in the conversation with Texas Tech and probably BYU, maybe. We'll see. As Big 12 title contenders. That's how it looks to me at this very moment in time. Maybe this is a freezing cold take in a few weeks. Maybe Utah's unbelievable. Maybe Kansas State had a weird slip up. But that's a game they could have easily been 0-2, and then Iowa State doesn't look very good after that one. I think Iowa State's got all the tools. Comparing them to the rest of the Big 12, I think we're in the same boat as every other team I would consider a Big 12 championship kind of caliber team. I feel really good about this team right now. I really, really do. I think they've got all the tools. And I know what I said in the second segment. I am completely aware of that. And I do think that needs to change. And let me know what you think down below or at Nick_Marv on Twitter. I read everything you guys say because I appreciate it, But the secondary being what it is, I still think this team is unbelievable. I still think this team is one of the best that Iowa State's maybe ever had and has a chance to really do some great things. Speaking of great things, one more thing for you here. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview, featuring yours truly, Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. Not me, of course, but everybody loves Drake Toll. He leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. Of course, college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. You guys will get a kick out of that. Drake obviously does a great job. We love Drake Toll for sure, right? At Locked On Big 12. Thank you guys so much for listening to this point. If you haven't hit subscribe already, do it. It's completely free. It's a Cyhawk week, okay? We've got to dominate in the trenches here. Let's prove it's a Cyclone state, because it is. It is for this week, and I think it will be for the next year after this upcoming weekend. That being said, until next time, Cyclone fans, sign.